Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace, and you may say I'm a dreamer. Oh, but I'm not the only one. I know someday you will join us, oh yes, and this world will live as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger, just a brother and sisterhood of man. Imagine all the people everywhere sharing this whole world. You may say I'm a dreamer. No, no, I'm not the only one. No, 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 no. And one day, someday, everybody will join us, and this world will be as one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Candy Williams, ladies and gentlemen, and our beautiful band, thank you so much. Yes, and those beautiful immortal words by John Lennon that go so beautifully with those immortal words of Martin Luther King. I have a dream, imagine, right? These two ideas go hand in hand and are so critical to our understanding of how life unfolds. And how easy it is to discount dreams and imaginings. Got to work hard. Got to figure it out. How is this going to happen? We've always had these problems. You know the human race. You know people. And we default to worldly wisdom, to biological imperatives, and to the human condition. This is why in this month of January, we're going over the basic principles and practices of the science of mind, because it is an entirely different way of looking at what's really going on in reality, the nature of reality, who we are in that, how this actually works, and providing us with a map where we understand the power of dreams and of imagining, and how we can, in fact, affect change, not only in our own lives, but in the lives of humanity as a whole. So while some of this conversation that we're having this week and this month it gets a little heavy, I have heard the words intellectual, esoteric, my brain hurts, oh my God, are you kidding me? And I think you do yourself a disservice. You do yourself a disservice in believing that you cannot understand this and that you cannot take this up in a way that really makes a difference. So this is not intended to be intellectual, nor is it intended to be esoteric. It is no different than if you are in a chemistry class and you're learning chemistry, a math class and you're learning algebra, an English class and you're learning grammar, a psychology class and you're learning about the development of humanity and the development of an individual and the stages of life. It's no different than any of those things. And it is such a radical shift in understanding from not only the way our human biology is put together, but then also all of our religions, so much of what we've learned about how life works. It's such a radical shift. And yet, every mystic, every spiritual tradition, the philosophy, science, and psychology all agree that there is something true. There's something radically true about this particular point of view. And in so many ways, biology, psychology, and science are corroborating what the mystics have understood. So do not sell yourself short. Thank you. All right. So we're going to carry on today. And living from the inside out, right? So this is one of the things why this idea of imagine, I have a dream, is so powerful. Because where does it live? Inside, right? Our own imagining, our dreams, our hopes, our intentions, our commitments, the things that by God we will not be moved from. Where do they live? They live here. They live inside. Everything starts on the inside. It starts in that place of dreaming and imagining and then holding the commitment to that as we move forward. So we're going to be talking about these science of mind principles and practices and methods that invite us to understand the power of what we are doing. Not to be afraid of it. The truth is, it's happening all the time. It's already happening. I'm going to say what I said again last week. I'm going to say it again this week. This is not a prescription. Oh, you should do these things. Your life will be better. This is a description of what's happening. We want to become conscious of what's happening so that our lives can be better, so that we can affect change, so that we can heal the consciousness of racism, so that we can move ourselves into a new awareness of sustainability, so that we continue to heal the ways in which we are damaging our planet. All of that begins on the inside, and it begins on the way in which we dream, imagine, believe, and then move in the world. So just like the beautiful workshop that we're having today and all of our classes, the visioning class that starts tomorrow, right? Visioning is a way of opening up to the dream that the Spirit is seeking to dream through each one of us and through humanity, right? All of our classes are designed to teach us how to apply these things, not just to be able to regurgitate them intellectually, not just to be able to say the words, but to apply it, and to apply it specifically, individually in our own lives and to the issues facing humanity today. Because we are facing some issues, are we not? Holy mackerel. And our spirituality, if it is only about us, is not a complete spirituality. Our spirituality and our spiritual practice, it's not enough just to be about us. We have to understand that the way in which we think and act and move in the world is, in fact, having an impact. So apathy and not paying attention or not wanting to feel the feelings of the challenge of it does not excuse us. Just as we have to look firmly at our own lives and make some decisions, take it up in a different way, so we have to do the same on the collective level. Okay, so we spent a little bit of time on this yesterday, just reminding us that our definition of a principle, CSL's definition of a principle, a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of belief or behavior or a chain of reasoning. Right? So we understand that as we understand these principles, they become the foundation from which we think, from which we believe, and from which we act. We're constantly acting out of the principles of how we think life works. What we want to do is ask ourselves, is it true, as Byron Katie says, is it true? Is it really, really true that that's how life works? Or is that simply a holdover from our human condition, our trauma of our childhood, or the way our biology operates? But if we know ourselves to be spiritual beings having a human experience, then we ask ourselves, what's true as a spiritual being having a human experience? CSL's definition of a practice is the actual application or use of an idea or belief as opposed to theories relating to it. So science of mind is, if it is nothing, it is practical. It is, and it doesn't actually, what shall we say? It is not a spirituality to leave in the Sunday morning realm or on the meditation cushion. It's a spirituality that should, in fact, make a difference every moment of every day, how we wander around the world, how we engage with life, how we think about what's going on, how we align ourselves with spiritual truth, and how we then move in the world from that place. For those of you who took my workshop a couple of weeks ago, last week, whenever it was, oh God, I've slept since then, we talked about our come from place. Right? What we're doing as we are re-educating ourselves is we are making a new come from place. Not a come from place of fear or I don't matter or what can I do or it's too much anyway or it'll never be any different, but a come from place that is from the spiritual truths that align with our belief that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. It isn't enough to be able to talk about the theory. Again, this is why we have so many workshops and classes, because in workshops and classes is where we practice applying them. What does it look like, feel like? How does it change? Where's the struggle, the challenge of the application? And of course, as Armando said so beautifully in our morning class, then we get to celebrate our TSRWs. Right? For those of you who are new to CSLDallas or Science of Mind, TSRW means this shit really works. But it works only if you work it. Apply it. Okay? So, and there's lots and lots and lots of methods. Meditation and mindfulness and journaling and all kinds of methods that help us do this application. So we're going to be focusing on the principles and practices. We will give some nod to methods, but the methods, many methods can be used to apply principles in lots of different ways. So it's not, the method is not a one-to-one, what do I want to say? One method doesn't support one practice which supports one principle. It's always broader and more nuanced than that. But as we understand the possibilities, then we have an ability to determine for ourselves which method do I need to apply? What is it that I need to practice so that I can live from the principles that I believe to be true? You see, they nest together. So that we have a way of walking around in the world that is different. That wasn't the word I wanted. A way of walking around in the world that is conscious, powerful, but most importantly, a way of walking around in the world that is available to us no matter what's going on. In the good times and in the crisis. In the individual things and the collective things. In the, oh my God, this is so great, I want to celebrate it, to the, oh my God, what am I going to do? How it works. We begin to get a hold of these things. So that's what we're going to talk about. For those of you who have read some of the Science of Mind, you'll know that we're kind of sort of gently wandering through the first 4 chapters, the introductory chapters in the Science of Mind. So if you're new, that's also a place you can go. Kind of encapsulates all of this. These principles and practices have been rewritten for the 21st century. Okay, how it works. This symbol that we have up here that you see everywhere in the Science of Mind is not like it's not like a religious symbol in that it is something that has to be worshipped or that it is God ordained. We call this our teaching symbol. It's a teaching symbol because it helps us remember the ways in which this map works. It's kind of a visual mnemonic. Does everybody know what a mnemonic is? Right? So I was just laughing the other day. I did this, and somebody said, oh my God, I've been doing it since I was a kid. How many of you know 30 days has September, April, June, and November? All the rest of 31 except for February, which is 28, except for leap year has 29. Right? Nobody remembers that. Do y'all remember that? Of course, right? So I was trying to figure out how many days April had, and I said out loud that, and whoever I was talking to laughed and laughed and laughed and said, oh my God, I remember that. Okay, well, you can also do it with your knuckles, right? January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and then you have to do August again in the same space, August, September, October, November, December, right? So the knuckles, the big knuckles are the 31 days, and the in-between is the 30 days. That is also a mnemonic. I was, I think, 32 when I learned that one. Somebody showed me that one. These are mnemonics that help us remember things. Our teaching symbol is no different. It is simply a visual mnemonic to help us remember this map of reality, of infinite reality, the one infinite reality, both the intangible and the tangible reality, as we talked about last week when we were exploring the principle of oneness. So the circle is representing the principle of oneness. The problem with the physical circle, of course, is that there's an outside. So you have to remember that the circle is just a symbol, has no beginning and has no end, goes on infinitely and eternally, and that it is stretched out into infinity and eternality. I'm going to say it's Meister Eckhart, but I'm not sure that's true. Could be one of the other Christian mystics who said, God is a circle whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. God is a circle whose center is everywhere. Center is everywhere. Everywhere there's a center. But whose circumference is nowhere, right? That's the circle. So we don't want to think about it as having an outside. So we're going to use this, this symbol now to get to some of the more esoteric and intellectual ideas that we're going to talk about. And we use the symbol to help organize it so that we can actually understand what it is we're talking about, because we don't believe in blind faith. We don't do these things because somebody has stood up here and told you to do it, or because you've read it in a book, or because you're supposed to do it. It's an okay place to start. It's also an okay place to start intellectually. And then we begin to prove it to ourselves. We experiment with it and we prove it to ourselves. That's the science part of the science of mind, or the science of consciousness. All right, so the next principle that we come to is the idea of this threefold nature, which is why we have 3 sections to our teaching symbol. The one infinite reality expresses itself in 3 aspects: spirit, law, and body. Spirit being the impulse, law being the way that being becomes creation, and body, the manifest body of the infinite physical universe. So anything that you can point to that has space or time is part of body, the infinite body. So we understand this threefold nature, and we're going to explore it. Actually, if you're taking my Science of Mind class right now, you know that we've just spent a whole boatload of time on spirit, and we're now going on to what's that middle section. That middle section represents law, soul, universal subjective mind, substance, medium, lots of other words, fabulous things, all of which are super important. And then the bottom section is creation. Now, I will tell you that that's one of my favorite things about the Science of Mind, is that creation is included in the one. It's not, oh, there's spiritual stuff and us, and we are going to try to get to God or nirvana or heaven or whatever, and then there's this crappy place called Earth that we're all, either doomed to learn lessons or stuck in until we have done something that allows us to enter into nirvana or into heaven. When we get to the concept of creation, we'll see that it's very, very different. So this threefold nature is it's an alignment with so many other spiritualities and religions and ways in which to think about life, psychology, the id, the ego, the superego, the conscious, the subconscious, the unconscious. In the East, we have Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. There's so many of these trinities, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. Of course, if we were following it in a line, we would say the Father, the Holy Ghost, and the Son, or the Holy Spirit. I learned it Roman Catholic as the Holy Ghost. I always thought that was a little weird name. I like the Holy Spirit better. So this is just a map. That's all it is a map. And each one of us is made in the image and likeness of the one, right? One of the most profoundly mystical statements in the Hebrew Bible, in the Genesis, in the first story of creation, made in the image and likeness of God, made in the image and likeness of the one. What we have done, for the most part, is we have made the one, we've made God in our image and likeness, right? Especially here in the West. And we have made it a being, a super person. I mean, even think of all the representations, masculine, sitting on a cloud with a white beard, all the ways in which we have imagined that is a super person in many ways. And for some of us, kind of even in New Thought, it's not certain whether it's God or Santa Claus. Right? If I just do it right and pray and ask and do, whatever it is, then I'm going to get my goodies. And so this is a deep, deep change, a deep, different understanding. That out there is not made in our image and likeness. We are made in its image and likeness. So if there's a threefold nature to the infinite, there's a threefold nature to us as well. We are not creations of the one. We're not children of the one. We are the one manifested individually. We will get to that next week. So we have this same threefold nature. This is incredibly important if we're going to take up our place in the universe. if we're going to take up our conscious contribution to shifting the consciousness of humanity, it is a recognition that this is, in fact, not only what is happening universally, but is also who we are and how we are made. We are made in the image and likeness. So we have this same threefold nature. So we have to, and then we have to talk about the V, this lovely V that is always in our teaching symbol. And this V is the definition, is the creative process. The one infinite reality operates through a universal law of cause and effect, which is that middle section, right, comes through the universal law of cause and effect. And this law is impersonal, automatic, and intelligent. So there is a directionality to creation from spirit, from love. The law is the process in which that beingness becomes all of physical creation. This creative process uses and understands all three aspects, which is why it becomes important for us to understand all three aspects that we are calling out in this creative process. Remember that it's not three different beings, three different deities. We're not separating the one. We're simply calling out different aspects, functions, operations, the creative process. So how does this creative process work? The law receives the impress of Spirit's impulse and acts upon it, bringing it into form. I have a dream. I imagine. I believe. I work to build a consciousness of peace. I see the global vision unfolding, a world that works for everyone. I imagine the healing of racism. I imagine that humanity is creative enough and ultimately scared enough to do what is necessary to change the way we live so we don't completely fry the planet. I imagine that. Do you see? We do that work. That is the impress of Spirit. That is the impress of Spirit's impulse. So the last paragraph here, individuals having the same threefold nature use the creative process to shape our human experience in alignment with the whole perfect and complete reality. This is why dreaming is so important. This is why imagining is so important. This is why we understand that we're living from the inside out, because it starts with an impulse. It starts with an urge. It starts with a hope. It starts with a willingness to imagine something different than we are currently experiencing. That's the beginning of any creative process. Do you see? And as we continually work with that, we are continually impressing into this law, universal law of cause and effect, we are continually impressing something that it seeks to become, seeks to express for us, through us, as us, in physical creation. It's not spirit that is impressing through, that is the impress when we are engaged. It's actually our hopes, our dreams. Now, we can impress something different. We can impress fear. We can impress scarcity. Do you see? It is actually the impulse that we can contribute to. And that's why it's so important to realize that we can shape our human experience in alignment with the whole perfect and complete reality. Do you see? The more that we align with the ideas that we talked about last week, oneness, love, and creation, and that creation is good, that the whole teleology of life itself is moving for life, for growth, for wholeness, for expression, for love. The more that we recognize that that is its innate impulse, its innate desire to express, that when we align with that, then things have to change. They have to be healed. They have to come into a whole new way of being because we're aligning the individual with the universal and allowing ourselves to be part of it. I have a dream. I imagine. These are the ways in which we change the conditions that humanity is living under today. We use this process consciously, creatively, intentionally, purposefully for ourselves and for humanity as a whole. This is why we're doing consciousness-raising events this year. We have labyrinths. We'll be walking for the earth. We have a consciousness-raising event happening in March. March 1st, we're going to do a consciousness-raising event for an hour. We are going to be using this creative process to intend the healing of our democracy and to support and empower this particular election cycle for it to be less divisive and more for the greater good, because we know this works. Do you see? It's not just, oh, I'm going to sit here and hope and we're going to get a bunch of people together and we're going to bitch about those people over there, them, that, and whatever. And we don't really know because it's just, and it's scary and it's frightening and, oh, I don't want to think about it and I don't want to do it and I'm just going to be about my own life. No. Consciousness raising, when we commit and are participating in consciousness raising, we are using this process, consciously using it to affect change in the human condition, because that's how it works. From consciousness, the law moves into form. We may be moved as a part of that, but most importantly, we are aligning with the whole, perfect, and complete reality. That's why we do this. That's why we're here. That's what it means to be a light bringer. It's not just to feel good. It's to do this conscious, intentional work because we understand how it works and that it is possible to make these kinds of changes. When we do that, we come to our next principle, that there are spiritual laws that we are constantly using, right? The umbrella law is the law of cause and effect. That's the umbrella law, right? Everything falls out of the umbrella law. The universal spirit maintains harmony, equilibrium, and balance through spiritual laws. The law of correspondence, attraction, giving, and receiving. These are all variations of the way in which the law of cause and effect operates. So it would be like the law of mathematics, right? We have the law of mathematics, and inside the law of mathematics, we have the law of the plus sign, the law of the minus sign, the law of the multiplication sign. I know what it looks like. The law of the multiplication sign, the law of the division sign, right? We have then in algebra, we have other laws, that the law of the equal sign, right? And yet they're all variations of the law of mathematics. This is the same thing that's true. In all these various representations of the universal law of cause and effect, there's lots of different ways that we can engage in it, think about it, and use it. All of these spiritual laws are designed to maintain harmony, equilibrium, and balance in the universe. That's the universe's job. The universe's job is to take care of the universe. Consciously, individuals can learn to use these laws to create or change conditions, right? We use it to create something new businesses, new relationships, new joy in our lives, a new, deeper experience of connection and community. And we can use it to change conditions, heal things physically, emotionally, psychologically, heal things in our families, in our companies, and in our nation. So spiritual laws are the what shall we say? So let me start that sentence over again. So we understand the Hermetic teaching as above, so below, right? Which is what we're talking about. As above is spirit, that impulse, whether it is the universal impulse or the individual impulse. As above in the intangible world, so below in the tangible physical world. So what so many people are now doing, what New Thought has done and the science of mind has done, has gone, well, look, nature isn't random. It has a developmental process. Nature operates by laws. We can learn those laws and we can use them, right? We fly in a plane because there are a series of laws, gravity and aerodynamics and God knows what the rest of them are, right? And somebody took all of those laws and practiced applying them in a physical form that would allow us to fly. Do you see? It's orderly, it's not random. The law doesn't say, well, you didn't pray this morning, so you can't fly your plane. Can't add 2 and 2 to you can't use the plus sign because you weren't nice to your mother this morning. They're just laws. And so by looking into nature, if it's as above, so below, then we can look below and say, well, if this is how below operates, we extrapolate from it, well, that's how as above must also be. Do you see? So I can look in the mirror and see that my hair needs to be combed, right? I don't comb the mirror. That would be silly. I comb my hair. But I have to look in the mirror to see that my hair needs to be combed. We look into physical reality, which is the mirror, so below, which is the mirror of as above. Do you see? So that's why we extrapolate laws. It's not just that we have to convince some deity out there to favor us, to decide that we've earned it, to decide that we're good enough, to decide that we have followed some certain practice that looks like we're being spiritual outwardly. No. It's all about whether or not we understand how this actually works and whether we are choosing on the inside to align ourselves. Do you see? It's from the inside out. And so we consciously learn to use these laws. Okay, a lot of information, lots of great stuff. There's fabulous books Ernest Holmes and lots of other New Thought writers have written. We can give you a whole list of ways in which you can explore this. Where to begin? Well, where to begin? Sacred study. Where to begin? Now, we've already talked about meditation and mindfulness, right? We understand that that's the place. That's where we experience the presence. That's where we experience the oneness. This is not in opposition to that. This is not saying this is more important than that. This is not saying this is better than that, nor does it say that that's better than this. This is an additional practice, sacred study. The practice of expanding our knowledge and understanding the nature of the one infinite reality, who we are, and a deeper understanding and use of each of the science of mind or science of consciousness principles, right? These are groups of people, the Wednesday night meditation at the bottom. The Wednesday night meditation at the bottom, that's a foundations class we had a number of years ago. These are people, many of you online, who have begun or been on the journey of sacred study, studying the science of mind, studying New Thought, studying people who are doing the work like Esther Hicks, Joe Dispenza, studying other mystics, studying other religions, studying psychology, studying quantum science, right? And seeing, as Ernest Holmes says, how all of these things point to this same understanding of the way life works. Sacred study deepens our awareness of spiritual truths and provides the framework of spiritual practice. Through spiritual study, we gain wisdom as well as a deep appreciation for the wisdom of those who have walked a spiritual path throughout the ages. This is why we have such a monumental emphasis on getting in classes, taking courses, going to retreats, being part of immersives, having experiences, reading books together, being in book studies, being in groups, being in our circles, being in our sanghas. All of these, right, are ways in which to do this sacred study collectively. We can, of course, do it individually through contemplation and through reading, our own contemplation, being inspired by poetry, by Mary Oliver, by Rumi, reading the ancient texts, reading very modern quantum physics, Brené Brown. I mean, the list is endless. All of this, not to hop from thing to thing to thing to thing, but more importantly, to understand that as an adult learner, what happens when we learn is, especially new things, we're really trying to bend our mind around. What happens when we learn is we start having a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of information, a little bit of stuff, and then new stuff comes in and it feels like it's just floating around. I don't know how this relates to that, and what the heck is that, and what does that mean? But the more we studied, you see, it's like I think of it as little Velcro balls. Okay, little pieces of information, they start sticking together, right? And the little Velcro balls are getting bigger and bigger, and when something new comes in, it's like, oh, it fits there. Oh, I get it. It goes here. Oh, I see how this relates. And our ball of knowledge and information grows and grows and grows and grows as we are doing this sacred study. And of course, that allows us then to practice and apply, because we begin to know what we're doing, right? Now, the downside is what happens when your ball of knowledge grows, right? So if you have a ball of knowledge this big, everything inside of it you know, and the outside represents what you don't know. Pretty small. What happens when the ball of knowledge gets bigger? You know less and less, right? Because the outside of the ball of knowledge gets bigger and bigger, which is fabulous because we're invited more and more and more into the mystery. It's not about nailing it down and figuring it out and saying, now I know. No. You do that from your mystical experience, right? Now I know. But as our ball of knowledge and information grows, our curiosity should grow. Our willingness to explore things that continually hook onto that which we don't know. And more and more and more of the transcendent mystery gets revealed to us. And then we're invited back on our meditation cushion, right? Because it is in meditation and contemplation that we touch those parts of reality that we're beginning to be invited into. And we are more willing to explore more and more, like not just intellectual information, but poetry and art and science and all of it, because our body of what I don't know is growing as much as our body of what I do know. Yeah. And then it becomes a lifelong exploration. Lifelong. With deeper and deeper and deeper we grow. Deeper and deeper and deeper we go. Deeper and deeper and deeper into the richness. Right? And then our insides, our minds, our hearts, our intuition, our experience of oneness, our bodies, everything is being worked. And all of it to become more and more aligned with the spiritual truth of who we are, that we may be the light, experience the light, be the love, experience the love, and express the joy of being spiritual beings, having a human experience. Dr. Tracy Brown will carry on with this next week while I'm in Costa Rica. Don't give up. Don't give up. And sign up for classes.